Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. This video is going to be about the assault at Spring Valley and also, in a more broader sense, about what are some things that we can do now. I'm sure you guys just heard Zelda meow. What are some things that we can do now to kind of combat the school to prison pipeline, which I've talked about in some other videos. So, of course, there will be links in the description box as well as the cards or whatever if you're interested in that. But you guys know that I don't really like to focus so much on specific individual cases because none of these individual cases are, standalone events. They're all part of a, larger problem that we have with systemic racism in this country. So, the assault at Spring Valley is just another of hundreds, if not thousands, of these types of assaults and incidents that we're seeing in the school system because of the increased police presence in school and because of the school to prison pipeline. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that towards the end of the video. But assault at Spring Valley, for anyone that doesn't know, a video went viral yesterday, Monday, of a cop basically attacking a 15-year-old girl at Spring Valley High School in Columbia, South Carolina. Apparently, the cop was called after the student refused to leave the classroom. So apparently the teacher asked her to leave. She refused to leave. So the teacher called this police officer, and the police officer asked her to leave. She didn't leave. She didn't get out of her chair. At no point was she violent. Was she physical? She was just sitting in her chair, and she refused to get up. And basically the cop attacked her. He attacked her. And another student filmed the assault. He had her like in a chokehold. He flipped her desk over, he picked her up, threw her across the room, like he assaulted her. So the officer has been identified as Ben Fields, who's a school resource officer and SRO, as well as a sheriff's deputy, in South Carolina. And he's been placed on leave, of course, which, whatever that means, vacation time until nothing happens. And as of right now, the student has not been named. By the time you guys watch this video, she might be named. But as of right now, she has not been named. And since she's under 18, maybe they won't name her, I don't know. But also as of today, Tuesday, the Department of Justice has opened a civil rights probe, an investigation into the incident. So that's kind of the backstory. Before I really even get started into like the meat and potatoes of this video, though, I do want to say that I am not going to recommend that you watch the video of this incident if you don't want to. I haven't watched the video in its entirety. I don't watch these kind of videos anymore. Like I said in my police brutality is not torture porn video. Like I also said in my Sandra Bland video about Black outrage. A lot of the times I feel uncomfortable with the way that we share and almost commodify these images. And what I mean when I say commodify them is like these images and these videos and these incidents are not tallies, they're not casino chips, like this is not money that's being, collectively put into a pot to like somehow use to like pay off white people into like believing systemic racism is real, right? Like every one of these incidents and videos and clips and Walter Scott and Tamir Rice and, now this young girl and McKinney, this is not going into some kind of pot that at the end we're gonna like hit the jackpot and like white people are magically not gonna be racist anymore, like either white people are gonna get it or they're not gonna get it. And regardless of if they get it or not, these are real people in real situations, right? This is not a movie. It's not a set. It's not made up. It's not fiction. Again, it's not torture porn. Something set up for our voyeuristic amusement that we can like cringe and watch. This is not a situation set up for us to further our cause. Like this was a real little girl. This was a real 15-year-old girl that was flipped over in a chair and thrown across the room by a grown man. This is a real thing that happened, I don't have to watch the video to know that a grown man flipping over a teenage girl in a desk and then throwing her across the room is wrong. right? Like, no matter what the circumstances, that's never acceptable. And I don't necessarily have to watch that video over and over again to understand that that is unacceptable, you know? And it's just like, if we constantly loop and consume these images without respect for the fact that these are real people, then it kind of just becomes background noise, you know, like completely desensitizing us to the continued brutality against Black and brown bodies. So I just want to say that I have nothing but respect for people that don't want to share the video, that don't want to watch it. Like, I'm not saying bury your head in the sand and pretend that this is not happening. Like, read about it, be aware about it, know the logistics of what's going on, but you don't necessarily have to keep watching these videos over and over and over. Like, you don't have to watch Walter Scott get shot 6 times in the back. I feel like it does something to us collectively. Spiritually, I just feel like it's weird, you know? Like, be aware, but don't feel like you have to share these images to spread awareness, I guess. Like I said, these are real people. They're real situations. They're not bargaining chips to try to convince white people that racism is real. Racism is real. Racism is real. It's real. You know? Like, so I just want to say that. But yeah, so I have read extensively about this incident, and I watched a portion of the clip. I watched up until the part where he was clearly about to get physical with this little girl. And I have to say, what my first thought was while reading it about it and watching the little bit that I watched, because the full clip is like a minute and a half. So I watched like maybe the first 10 to 15 seconds of it where he's telling her to get up and he's like clearing the stuff off of her desk. It's like, okay, he walked in there ready for a confrontation. He walked in there not only ready for a confrontation, he walked in there completely ready for that confrontation to get physical. He walked in ready for that confrontation to get physical. So my first thought was like, wow, we really have a failure to de-escalate this situation. We have somebody that walked in prepared to escalate this situation to violence. And that is exactly what happened. That's what happened. You have a young girl, a teenage girl, 15-year-old girl, who for whatever reason, she didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave the room. Teacher asked her to leave. She didn't want to leave. The SRO asked her to leave. She didn't want to leave, you know? And people keep saying, like, oh, we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened before this clip. Like, we have to get all the facts. And it's like, well, first of all, I don't need all the facts to know that a grown man flipping over a desk and throwing a little girl across the room is wrong. Like, what facts in what universe does that become okay? 1. 2, we don't know what happened in the clip. But that means that people are saying that to try to say we don't know what the little girl did, if she mouthed off or this or that. But we also don't know if the teacher mouthed off. We don't know. I hate that, mouthed off. I hate that. We don't know what the teacher fucking said. We don't know anything that happened that led up to this clip. And it's like teachers and cops, you know, and all these people are not automatically right because they're authority figures. So this idea of, oh, we don't know what happened, and blah, blah, like, yeah, we don't know what happened. The teacher might have fucking cursed her ass out and called her a fucking monkey for all we know. Like, I remember one time, my husband told me this story of, he's sitting in class, and he's like a class clown, and like talking to his friend, and the teacher says, like, be quiet, and he says, okay. Typical teenager, he's quiet for maybe 10, 15 minutes. He starts like nudging and talking again and cracking jokes, stuff that we all did in class. And the teacher basically got pissed off and came over to his desk, slammed his hands down on the desk, got this close to my husband's face, and was like yelling at him, shut the fuck up, cursing everything, shut the fuck up, I already told you, shut the fuck up, blah, blah, blah. My husband stood up, like, oh, you trying to square up, like, you trying to throw hands. As soon as my husband stood up, the teacher backed off and called security. And when security came, what did the teacher say? Oh, he got in my face. He was trying to fight me. He was trying to do this. He was trying to do that. You know, I want to get him arrested. I want to get him kicked out of the class. Woo, woo, woo. And of course, if like, this was in 2005-ish, so there was no, you know, recording and shit like that. But of course, like, if there had been a camera, the camera might have started with the teacher slamming his hands on the desk. The camera might have started when my husband standing up and bucking at the teacher. Like, of course we don't know, and it's unfair to automatically assume that this little girl was mouthing off, and I'm sure that has to do with her being a black girl, but we're going to get to that later on in this video. And not that the teacher did something wrong, because we just don't know. We can only go off what we saw, and what we saw was a grown-ass man overturning a desk and throwing a little girl across the room, right? And it's like, that's too much, you know? Like, we don't know what the teacher did. Teachers fucking try it. Administrators try it. Principals try it. You know, I've spoken my homeschooling video about these teachers with these biases and the way they treat these kids. I saw a clip going around Tumblr just the other day of some white teacher fucking actively trying to provoke this young black boy, this young black male student, talking about, oh, so I see you do have a fucking brain cell left in your brain. And what did he do? He jabbed his ass. He jabbed his ass. But we just happened to see the lead up to the kid jabbing him, right? So people love to say, we don't know what happened. Oh, there's no way to know what happened. But it's like, you don't even know if the teacher provoked the student. Like, yes, it's possible. Teachers provoke students every day, you know? Like, there's no way to know what happened. At the end of the day, we can only go off what's there. So what is there? Let's talk about what's there. What's there is a grown man flipping a desk and throwing a child across the room, period. So what's no point even talking about the fiction of what happened to try to make it the little girl's fault. We can only go off what we saw, and that is what we saw, and that is never appropriate. He did that because he walked in there ready for a confrontation, and because he could not de-escalate the situation without resorting to violence. And that's what cops are supposed to do. Like, there's this idea that cops are like Wild West fucking gunslingers that are there to like kick ass and take names, but that's because we watch too many fucking movies, we watch too much fucking SWAT, we watch too much fucking Bad Boys. Like, cops are supposed to de-escalate situations, and that's not to say that I don't like SWAT or Bad Boys, because I do, but it's like cops are there to de-escalate situations, not escalate them into violent altercations every time. And that's something that we see cops doing over and over and over, especially when black and brown bodies are involved, right? And I see these people that are saying like, well, what would you have him do? The girl wasn't listening. The girl wasn't listening. She wasn't listening. What would you have him do? It's like, what would I have him do? De-escalate the situation, my nigga. Like, you're a trained fucking professional and she's a 15-year-old girl. Right? You can't de-escalate the situation without overturning a desk and throwing her across the room. Seriously? And all y'all saying, what would you have him do? The girl wasn't listening. None of you grown-ass people can de-escalate a situation with a teenager without getting shit physical. So y'all just out here punching kids in the face. Like, no. Like, come on. Like, no. This is part of our, our collective bias and racism to try to explain all this type of shit against black bodies away and make it so that it's, the black person's fault. What would I do? What would I personally have done? I can de-escalate situations without resorting to violence. Like, I remember when I was in high school, we had peer mediation. I graduated in 2005, so this is 10 years ago now, right? So 10 years ago, they had peer mediation programs in schools. And I remember peer mediation was a class you could sign up for that you could take. It was an elective, like, home ec or, something like that. And basically the point of the class was you went to the class like once or twice a week and you literally learned de-escalation techniques. So you learned things to say, you learned what not to say, you learned buzzwords, you learned key phrases. And then when kids got into altercations and they got sent to the office, what they would end up doing is they would pull one of us, a peer mediator. They had like a little chart, and like that was how we got like picked. They would pull one of us out of class. They would take us to the guidance counselor's office. We would have a teacher, like a moderator, but we were the mediator, like us, the kids. So you had the two kids that got into the altercation, you had the kid that was the mediator, and then you had the adult, the faculty member that was like the moderator. And basically, we talked them through the incident. What happened? What do you think happened? What do you think happened? How did this make you feel? How did that make you feel? Why did it get to this level? Why did it get to that level? What could we do differently? And again, that's in 2005. Like, that was 10 years ago. And, like, here we are in 2015, and we have fucking trained professionals, grown-ass men that can't de-escalate situations with 15-year-old girls that are not even violent, because she was just sitting there without getting physical with them. Like, come the fuck on. And y'all are sitting here talking about, well, I would have done the same thing. Like, what? That's crazy. Like, and that's not to say that my school was perfect or anything like that, because my school, I went to an inner city, DCPS school. My school had metal detectors. My school had X-ray machines, like the kind you have at the airport that you have to put your bags, and your book bag and your shit in, and it had security guards, and it had to go through. We had IDs with barcodes that you had to literally swipe. Like, it was like entering prison, like, which is just more evidence of the school to prison pipeline, especially in black schools, especially in poor schools, especially in inner city schools. You have this increased police presence, and increased police presence in schools leads to less disciplinary measures from teachers and administration, like peer mediation programs, because it's like, well, you have the cops right there. So why am I going to try and discipline you? Why am I going to try to mediate you? I have a cop right here that I could just call, It's like, why couldn't the teacher in Spring Valley de-escalate the situation himself without resorting to calling the cop, right? Like, she doesn't want to get out of the chair? Okay, push the whole motherfucking desk outside the classroom and have her sit in the hall. I used to have a teacher that would literally do that. Like, push your desk out. Or he also had a desk outside of the classroom right by the front door. So if he said, like, get out and, like, go sit there, you had to, like, get up and go sit outside the class. And if you were not there when the class was over, then you got a referral and they would, like, call your parents or something like that. Like, or, let her sit there and just ignore her for the rest of the class. One of the other classmates gave a statement saying, she just transferred into our class. She's really quiet. Like, she's really shy. She didn't want to talk. So it's like, again, we don't know what led up to that, but it's like, especially nowadays, you have these, like, crazy strict, like, rules of, like, oh, if I call on you and you don't want to talk, which maybe she didn't want to talk, she's a shy girl, they said she never talked. I call on you, you don't want to talk, I feel like you're testing me because I'm the teacher, you don't want to talk, so, oh, you don't want to talk, get out of my class. You don't want to get up and leave, so I call the police. The police come and now your desk is getting fucking overturned. There's so many ways that could have been de-escalated without resorting to calling the police and without the whole altercation getting physical, right? Like, so many other paths that you could take. Like, there's a whole slew, there's a whole smorgasbord, there's a whole motherfucking cornucopia of disciplinary options that do not involve calling the cops. But once you have police in schools and in the school systems, there's this knee-jerk reaction to call the cops on students. There's this knee-jerk kind of idea that students are perpetrators, that students are suspects. Not that they come to school to learn, but that they come to school, I don't want to say to be inmates, but there's definitely a weird thing happening with the school system, Like, there's just a knee-jerk reaction to call the cops on students, to treat the students like they're suspects, like they did something wrong automatically, instead of even attempting to de-escalate the situation with some form of discipline. And that shit bugs me out because it's like, I'm sorry, but when you're working with children, be it, pre-kindergarten up to high school, up to elementary school, up to high school, that is a part of your job, right? Disciplinary measures. If you can't hack it with kids under 18, go teach community college, my nigga. Like go fucking teach typing to professionals. Like, go teach grown-ups, right? Like, there's no expectation of discipline with college students. There's no expectation of discipline with adult students. But 18 and under, I'm sorry, but a part of your job is to shape the developing minds of adolescents. And that occasionally includes whipping those minds into shape with discipline, because children and teenagers are going through developmental stages that cause them to push boundaries and test limits. Like, this is a part of growing. Like, that is literally part of brain and personality development. And a lot of us love to sit here as grown-ups and act like we were perfect fucking individuals that never made mistakes, that never did anything wrong. We never got in trouble in school, and a teacher never had to call us the fuck out, and a teacher never had to put us in our place, and we never talked back, and we never disrupted a classroom, and we never got up and got out when the teacher told us, to get out. We love to sit here, I'm 27 years old. Like I said, I graduated 10 years ago. We love to sit here 10 years down the road and act like, well, why didn't she just listen and comply? Like, we weren't fucking 17 once, Like, I like to say that 2-year-olds and teenagers are exactly the same, because they're both learning the power of no, the word no. They're both learning the autonomy that they have over their own bodies. They're both exploring the world around them. They're both realizing, you know, I can say no. I can have an opinion. I can control my own body. I don't want to say I can do whatever I want, because you can't do whatever you want, but someone has to teach you that, and someone has to guide you into that. And you have these adults that work in these schools with these kids, and they don't want to do that. Then you shouldn't be there. You should not be there, because that's a very important, it's a crucial part of development. And if you can't handle that without fucking calling the cops on 15-year-old kids, you should not be there, period. And I was on Twitter, and I saw a series of tweets by this girl named Corporate Barbie. I don't follow her, but someone retweeted her tweets into my timeline, and she literally put the same thing. So I'm going to read. She put, teenagers disobey authority. That was not an appropriate response to your typical teen defiance. It's part of the process of their brain development and maturity during those years. It is a biological mandate. So stop asking why that girl didn't listen or obey. She's a teenager, and every single one of them has moments like that. You did. Your precious angelic kids do or will. It is part of our process of maturation. Just like with toddlers. I was like, man, girl, you are in my head. Just like with toddlers, boundaries are going to be tested and risks are going to be taken during that time, which is why the adults who choose to work with teens should understand and be prepared with strategies to deal with it, strategies that don't involve forcibly assaulting them. And it's like, exactly. Fucking exactly 100%. And it's like, all you guys that are excusing this shit, stop. Just stop. Not only do you sound ridiculous because the price for not listening is not being thrown across the room, like that's not written down anywhere that you should be fucking choked out and thrown across the room for not listening. So not only do you sound ridiculous, you sound like you know literally nothing about brain development. You know literally nothing about children. You know literally nothing about child development. Like, stop asking why she didn't listen or obey or comply or whatever other bullshit. Like, that's not even the way that adolescent, because she's an adolescent at 15, that's not even the way that adolescent brains work. Like, she's a fucking teenager, my nigga. Like, every single one of us has had moments like that. Like, I used to try the shit out of my first period teacher because I didn't like that we had dress code in my school. Like, we didn't have a uniform, but we did have dress code. And I took that shit personally. Like, I'm 15 or 16. I'm an individual. I want to express myself. I have, autonomy over my own body. I should be able to wear whatever the fuck I want. So I will wear vulgar ass t-shirts every day to school. I wear t-shirts that said, get the fuck out of my face. The last Bees Bake, we were talking about this. I'd wear t-shirts that said, like, get the fuck out of my face. Fuck you. I have this really scandalous one that said sexy on the front in big letters, and the whole back of it was like mesh. So the whole back of the shit was out. I'd wear that shit to school with no bra. So there was like no bra straps. Everybody knew I didn't have a bra. Like, I didn't give a fuck. I wanted to try it. Like, I'm grown. I can do what I want. I can say no. I can wear what I want. Like, and that's just a part of your brain. Like, your brain growing. And it's crazy because, like, my 11th grade year of school, me and my mom fought like cats and dogs for like a whole year because everything my mom said, I said no. She said left, I said right. She said up, I said down. She said yes, I said no. Like, and then I literally hit like 17 or 18 and I just grew out of it. It just like stopped. Like, it's really like your brain, like you're going through a phase developmentally. And it's like, for kids in general, are really not allowed to go through that phase nowadays because of this increased police presence in school. Black kids specifically are not allowed to go through this phase, not only because of the increased police presence in school, because of the fact that Black children are not seen as children, they're seen as adults, they're seen as older, more mature, more responsible for their actions. Same thing that happened to Tamir Rice. So it's just like, fuck, like shit is so fucked up. So fucked up. Like, when I was in school and I was wearing those vulgar ass fucking t-shirts, my teacher just kept an oversized shirt in class for me to put on. My first period teacher. She would just be like, really? We're going to do this again today? Like, go put the shirt on. Nowadays, I could be arrested for that. Arrested and fucking kicked out of school for wearing a t-shirt to school that says, fuck you. Like, really think about that in 2015. That's off the fucking chain. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's fucking crazy. Like, we have these lazy ass teachers and these lazy ass school administrators that are literally outsourcing discipline to cops. And these cops' first reaction is to slam these kids on the ground and fucking handcuff them and arrest them. And now they're in the system. And now they're fast-tracked into the prison system, right? And it's like, I get that a lot of teachers are understaffed and underpaid, and they feel like they don't have the proper tools to teach, let alone discipline. I get that. Like, I get that it's, if you have a cop right there, it's so easy to just eject the kids. Like, oh, bitch, pushing the button, ejecting you. I don't care. I don't care if you get arrested. I don't care if your life gets ruined. I don't give a fuck. But then it's like, at the end of the day, the students are the ones that are ending up paying the ultimate price, you know, for our fucked up ass school system. Like, our school system is broken. Our school system is broken. Like, our kids don't even get a chance to be kids, you know, because the school system is so fucked up that you have these scared ass teachers that are underpaid, that are racist, that already have a bias against black kids as being problematic, you know, these teachers that don't want to deal with the kids, they just want to have them removed from the class. And then you introduce these cops that just want to throw all the black kids in these cages anyway, and you just have a recipe for disaster. Like, the school to prison pipeline is very real. It is a real, tangible thing, you know? And I just have to say, like I've said it before, and I'll say it again, just like how slave catchers used to go into our countries and our communities and round up black people to be slaves, you have these cops that come into our schools and come into our communities and round up black people, and especially black children, to go work in the prisons for free. 15, 16, 17-year-olds going to Rikers 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you know, rest in peace fucking Khalif Browder, you know? It's crazy. It's fucked up. It is fucked up and broken. It is fucked the fuck up and broken, you know? Like, it's wild. It's fucking wild. It's really wild, you know? Like, prison is $1 billion industry and school is not, you know? And, you know, these cops just have this tendency to escalate with black and brown bodies because we are not seen as human beings. Our children are not seen as children, you know? There's an entire American youth culture that's built off of, like, youthful exuberance, and Ferris Bueller and Dennis the Menace, and the idea that kids will be kids, and that does not extend to black kids. And so you see this again and again, this excessive force used against black children, you know? And studies have really literally shown the way that society views black children as adults completely in control of their actions and not as children with developing brains just like every other child, you know? Like, people looked at that video and they really legit did not see a 15-year-old little girl acting like a little shit, as 15-year-olds can sometimes do. They really looked at it and saw, like, an angry black woman. Like, that was actually a comment I saw left on, like, Jezebel or something like that. She went all ABW, which I didn't even know what that was until yesterday. She went all ABW. She went all angry black woman. Like, the New York Times actually ran an article saying, like, black woman attacked by a police officer in high school. What? This is not a woman. This is a girl. This is a child. Headlines were calling 19-year-old Dylan Roof a kid after he fucking shot 9 people. But a 15-year-old girl thrown across a room by a grown man is a woman? Like, come on. Like, come on. Come the fuck on, people. Like, wake up. Wake the fuck up. Like, and I have to point out the misogynoir. I have to point out that sweet spot where race and sex intersect, because you can't tell me that the fact that she is a black girl does not play a part in this. The fact that she's a black girl and not a delicate, special, fragile white girl worthy of protection, and she's not a black boy worthy of protection. She's an angry black woman mouthing off. Very similar to what we saw in McKinney with the little girl at the pool party. This idea that not only are black children problems, you know, not only are black children adults, black girls in particular are seen as women from a very young age with attitude problems and therefore deserving of any punishment that is meted out towards us. And as a 27-year-old black woman with a motherfucking attitude problem, I say fuck that and fuck you if you think that. Seriously. Like, go fucking fuck yourself if you fucking think that. Like, there's so much going on with this whole fucking case and this whole incident and people's reactions to it. And, you know, it's just like the way that I see it. Most of us that aren't white supremacists, racists, bootlicking coons, or straight up black woman hating misogynists, the rest of us fall into two camps. Camp one, the system is broken and we need to pull our kids out of it. And that's me, but I'm currently childless, and I know for a lot of people with children that is not a viable option. I know that. I talked about that again excessively in my homeschooling video. So you also have Camp 2, which is looking for a way to fix the broken system. And in my opinion, that has to start with, if not removing the police presence entirely from the school system, which I'm an advocate for, like, get the fucking police out of schools. There's no reason to have police in schools unless it's like a super extreme case, I'm sorry. Then we at least need to examine the amount of power that police and the police presence have in the school, and we also need to really start curbing this idea of just throwing kids out of class. Parents have to start pushing for an examination of the police presence in the school, as well as what type of disciplinary programs do the teachers have in place, do the administrators have in place, or are they just relying on call the cops, arrest the kids, get the kids out of my class? We really have to start examining that, you know? I'm going to read you guys an excerpt from an article that will be linked in the description box on restorative justice. So make sure you check that out. New York City schools released a long-awaited update to the public school system's discipline code that would make it harder to remove a student from school for minor infractions, following years of complaints by the New York Civil Liberties Union and other groups about the overuse of suspensions. Just throwing kids out. You want to talk back? Bitch, get out of my class. The proposed revision would bar principals from suspending a student just for cursing or wearing the wrong clothing. They could still suspend for other types of insubordination, but only after obtaining approval from the Office of Safety and Youth Development. The code would also make it much harder for schools to use physical restraints on students under the age of 12. Now that has to actually be written down. You are not allowed to use physical restraints on students under the age of 12. That had to be written down because there were enough students under the age of 12 that were being physically restrained. Really think about that. The code would also make it much harder for schools to use physical restraints on students under the age of 12 and would introduce peer mediation. Mediation sessions are a form of what's known as restorative justice, an approach that allows students to see how their actions affect each other. Districts from Oakland, which is California, to Chicago have been encouraging schools to use restorative justice as an alternative to suspensions. So they're trying to bring back peer mediation, basically, because they're seeing that the way that they're doing it now with this increased police presence is really not doing anything except fast-tracking kids from school to prison. The city told the paper that's New York City, told the paper that reported the story, that overall suspensions and misconduct incidents have all declined since they introduced restorative justice, aka peer mediation, and since they banned suspensions. So it's just like, imagine that. You fucking actually deal with the kids, you discipline the kids, you talk to the kids, you mediate the kids, you have the kids talk to each other about what's going on, without handcuffing them and overturning desks and throwing them across the room, and the misconduct incidents decline. Who knew? Who the fuck knew that was how it worked? I'm shocked. Are you? I can't believe it, you know? Like, it's so crazy. So one more tweet that I wanted to read before I get out of here is from Rebecca WSM, another person I follow. Teens are shockingly easy to work with when you actually care. This teacher in this school doesn't care. Assault at Spring Valley High. And I would take that one step further to say that, again, our school system as a whole is broken. Our school system as a whole doesn't care. They don't care about these kids. They don't care where these kids are going. They don't care about these kids' lives. Again, all they want to do is eject them, you know? And again, then you shouldn't be a teacher. And two, we need to really start holding these school systems accountable and start pushing for alternatives, because the way that shit's going right now is not working. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's getting up kind of late. I'm sorry, but there were a lot of developments in the story, and I wanted to wait a bit before I made this video. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.